Hello everyone, welcome back to this Python for Absolute Beginners course. Now, today we will be looking at data types, specifically the basic data types in Python. Now, Python has a couple of other data types that are beyond the scope of this course. To keep it simple, I've selected 4 basic data types that we'll be looking at in this course, and then the other ones we'll still look at them in the future. Now, the 4 I selected, obviously you can see them on the screen now. They are the integer, which is shortened as int, and then we have the floats, that is the float, and then we have string, that is just str, and we have boolean value, which is bool. Now, don't worry if you do not understand what any of these means. I promise at the end of the course you will be able to not just understand, but also be able to write different data types and also know exactly what they are and how to use them. Now I'll just add a new cell now, and let's start with the integer. What's an integer? Integers are whole numbers without the decimal point. So any number at all that you can think of that doesn't have the decimal point is an integer. Now, what are numbers without without decimal points? For example, maybe something like 1, without the comma, obviously. So I'm just using the comma just to specify or to add some other numbers. So let's say 1, and then maybe 5, 70, any number at all you can think of. You can write any long number. These are all integers. Now, remember, I also said that integer obviously are numbers, again, without the decimal point, and that means that negative numbers are also integers. So something like -4, -38, well, 38, and then maybe -900. These are all integers. But how exactly do we test these? Well, I'll add a new cell now. Remember, I told you in our previous lesson that Python has a couple of functions. Now, we looked at the function called print, and we opened the bracket, we closed the bracket, and we said, anything we put inside these, maybe something like hello world. So if we put hello world here, print is basically just telling Python or output these on the screen. So if we run these now, we get hello world shown on the screen, which looks good. Now, Python has another function as well called type. Now, functions are always called with these open and close bracket, and then anything you put inside here is the argument you're passing to that function. Now, we have the type as another function, and what this does is it takes whatever thing you are putting inside here, and then it tells you the data type for it. So let's test some of these and see if we are right, if they are truly integers. We start with 1. So we're saying give us a type of 1, and then we run this. It says 1 is an integer. Now let's try with 70. So let's say type 70, and we enter. It says that's an integer as well. Now, how about we try this long number? Let's say type. We just pass these inside here and run it. It says that's an integer as well. Okay, that's interesting. So let's try -900. So we write the type here and we enter. So that's an integer as well, right? So that I think integers are really easy to understand because once you just think about a number that doesn't have a decimal point, then just know that's an integer. So again, integers are numbers without decimal points. So whole numbers that don't have decimal points are integers. Now, I'll just delete this so we can have a clean state and then be able to still see the things we have up here. Now, the second one happens to be floats. Remember, we just talked about integers being whole numbers without decimal points. So numbers with decimal points, what then are they called? Well, that's easy, and they're basically just numbers. Numbers with decimal points are floats. So numbers with decimal points are the ones called floats. So that's something like 1.0, 8.5, anything you can think of, maybe 900.5, maybe 3.9, could be like -8 points to anything at all that has a decimal point is a float. So let's test this again using the type function. So if we do type here and we put in 1.0, so what's the type of 1.0? And it says that's a float, right? So we can just try it with about 2 more. So give us a type of this and we run it. It says that's a float. And lastly, let's try with a negative number. So let's say what's the type of these, and it says that's a float, right? So that makes it really easy as well, I guess. Well, the difference between the integers and floats again is just that integers are whole numbers without decimal points, while floats are numbers with decimal points. So if you see something like 1 and then you see 1.0, this means that 1 is an integer while 1.0 is a float, right? Now let's look at the third one being a string. Well, strings are, I think I'll just leave these for now. So I'll just go to add a new cell, right? Strings are anything that are enclosed in quotes. And when I say quotes, I mean either the single quotes or the double quotes. So either the single quotes or the double quotes. I'm just using these / to show, to keep a space or to demarcate between both quotes. So we have the single quotes here. I opened the single quote, I closed it here, and then we have the double quote here. I opened it here and I closed it here. So this means anything I put inside here, if I write maybe hello, or I write maybe 5, or anything inside is a string. Well, let's test it. So let's give us a type of hello, right? And let's run this. It says that's a string. So this means, again, anything inside the quote. So what if we try this? I can just copy and do the same thing. Now, initially we were using the single quotes, but now let's do it with the double quotes. So it says that's a string as well. All right. And when I wrote the string just a moment ago, when I wrote the example without running the type, I showed something I added when we first wrote the hello, and then I wrote a number inside a string, inside the quote. Now let's try it again and see what this looks like. So if we do this and we open and close the quotes, and then we add something like 5 inside. Now, what do you think? Is this a string? Is this an integer? Well, earlier we said that integers are numbers without the decimal points. And then we later said that strings are anything enclosed in a quote. So this is definitely a string because the number is wrapped in a quote. If this quote wasn't there, it would have been an integer, but because we have the quotes there, then that makes this a string. So let's run it and see. You see, we have string. Now remember, it goes on and on. Remember, we did in our previous lesson, we did something like maybe 5.5 plus 8, and if we run this, we get the answer as 13, right? But if we do something like If we say print, so let's use a print sign and say print 5 plus 8. This shows as, this shows the number, the calculation. It adds this up and then it gives us the answer as 13. But what if we do something like print, now we can just copy all of this anyways. So we copy this and paste, but instead of just leaving it like this, we wrap it in a quote like this, right? Now this is no longer integer addition, so this is not doing the addition anymore. Rather, we are passing a string to it, and we are just telling it to output a string. Remember the way we, in our previous class, the way we outputed, the way we said, oh, print hello world, and it just printed that out. So because this is a string, we are running this and saying print this, so it's not processing this, it's not seeing it as a number, rather it's seeing it as a string. And so if we run this, it just prints 5 plus 8 because that is a string and not a calculation. It's not like integers that it's able to sum it up. Rather, it's seeing them as string, and so it's just outputting that for us. I hope that makes sense. Well, it will take a bit of practice for you to understand string, but just always remember that anything enclosed in a quote like this is a string. So if you see any number at all, if even if it's a number or special characters, anything. So let's say maybe something like these, and then we put like dots, dots, forward slash, all of the signs in the world and all of that. So this is a string. If we do, you can just do type just to see. So if we do type and see, so this is a string. And the same thing as well, if we do, so maybe we can just copy these and do type to see these as well. So because we had this without the quotes, then this is an integer. But if we do the same thing now, and now add this and try to run it, then it's a string. So I hope you understand. So again, anything that has the quotes, whether it's single quote or it's double quotes, actually we can also copy these and replace the quotes with double like this. So if we do double quote like this, it's still a string. And lastly, we have Booleans. I think this is the easiest of them all. I'll just delete these and come all the way down. So this is the easiest of them all. Boolean is simply any true or false value. So if we say something like type true, so what's the type of true? It says that's a bool, because true is bool, and the other option, so the other option is false, so that's a bool. So these are the two possible values for bool. So anywhere you see true or you see false, it's a bool. Just to pick your brain a little, if we do type like this, again, obviously you remember from this one that if we run type of true, then the answer, the data type is bool. And what if we run type and then we put quotes like these? Can you guess what the data type is? No, I'll just run it. This is a string, so it's no longer a Boolean value, it's a string, because again, we've wrapped it in quotes like this. So always remember that anything wrapped in quotes happens to be a string, and integers are any numbers, any whole numbers at all, any whole numbers, whether it's a really long number or a very short number, negative or positive number, provided it doesn't have the decimal point, then that's an integer. And floats are, type of floats here. The floats are numbers with decimal points. So whenever you see decimal points, you know that's a float. Well, I hope that makes sense. Again, it will take a bit of practice for you to get really familiar with the data types in Python. And that's why I don't want to push too many data types to you at the moment. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the course, Python has a couple of other data types that we are not covering at the moment. But try to understand the four data types here. These are the basics of all of the things you'll be doing, and it makes sense you try to understand it very well. All right, thank you, and see you in the next one. Bye.